I get why it's hard to keep cocaine from coming into the country. People in the United States like using cocaine. They seek it out. They pay high dollar amounts for it. And so that would be something hard to stop.
Do they? Do they, Matt Gaetz? And if they do, how would you know about it? Is it from personal experience, perhaps? Now, this was during an incredibly important House Judiciary Committee meeting on drugs in the United States. And I say it's incredibly important because we are dealing with an insanely high number of drug overdoses, drug overdose deaths in America on any yearly basis, right? So somewhere around 100,000 Americans die every year as a result of overdoses on fentanyl, opioids. It's just a terrible situation and we need to act. We need to do what's necessary to save lives. I have one solution right off the bat. Did you know that 23 states have banned drug testing kits? So when people buy street drugs and those street drugs end up being laced with fentanyl or other things, they're not able to test it to make sure they're not taking fentanyl. Why? Why would they ban the test kits?
I mean, well, there might be other toxins that you'd want to find with a test kit, but when it comes to fentanyl, I don't think you need to go and purchase one. You just bring it within 500 yards of a cop, the cop keels over, that proves fentanyl was in it. Or at least somewhere within a half mile at the very least. And that's free, so sustainable.
Thank you for bringing the humor back to the conversation. No, but seriously, thank you for bringing the humor back because I was getting into like this Debbie Downer rabbit hole. So
we'll get back there, don't worry.
Pull myself out.
I will say though, as much as I despise Matt Gaetz and he's real human garbage, so far I'm not that against what he said. Yeah, drugs are popular. Now, I don't know what his stance will be on it in the end.
Cocaine though, I don't know how popular cocaine is. Cocaine seems like such a waste. It seems like it's too expensive for too short of a good time.
I don't know either. Now I'm sure you look at me and you think he's the cool kind of guy that gets invited to cool parties where there's coke passed around casually, but no, not really.
The coolest people wear dragon shirts for sure.
They do actually.
They do though. They
be a cool person. Shop TYT. But yeah, I'm not an expert. I'm sure there's arguments against it. I don't care if people do coke. I don't care if they should be legal. They should do coke if they want to do coke. And people want to. Some people want to.
Yeah,
and it's probably better than some alternatives.
Listen, I want to create a situation in which people don't get hurt and where people don't get hurt, and it can be as safe as humanly safe and regulated as possible, right?
Yeah, don't do it on a cell phone case though, because there's got to be germs on there.
Okay, but no, look, the thing I want to say about Matt Gaetz in this context is more a broader point about how much Republicans love to tell on themselves, because everything they do reeks of projection. And so he can't look past his own lived experience. In his lived experience, cocaine's great. Everyone wants cocaine, like I get it. Americans love cocaine. All right, not all Americans. I have no interest in cocaine, but he just projects that onto everyone else. I wanna go to the full clip of what he had to say. So he was actually discussing fentanyl when he gave his suspicious cocaine comments.
There has been discussion today of fentanyl, and it irks me every time I hear someone talk about fentanyl overdoses, because no one overdoses on fentanyl, because I don't think anybody really sets out to like score some fentanyl for a good time. I get why it's hard to keep cocaine from coming into the country. People in the United States like using cocaine. They seek it out. They pay high dollar amounts for it. And so that would be something hard to stop. But since people don't set out to use fentanyl, since it's something we don't want in our country, we should be totally capable of stopping it. And the only reason we aren't is because we purposefully allow our border to degrade, not by accident, not because of some lack of capability or some unsolvable problem set, but because there are some groups on the right and left who think that they will do better economically if we just let millions of people into the country and depress the wages of Americans. And the cost they're willing to pay for that are the funerals and the deaths and the broken lives as a result of fentanyl poisoning, because it is not an overdose, it is a poisoning that happens.
Is he on cocaine now? Is that what's going on? That argument made no sense. The majority of overdose deaths in any given year in the United States right now are from fentanyl overdoses. So like, first he says no one.
Fully legal drugs.
No, like literally fentanyl specifically. If you look at the numbers, and look, people have resorted to fentanyl because it's much cheaper, it's easy to access. Unfortunately, there's a lot of trafficking going on with fentanyl. That's why you're seeing a higher percentage of drug overdose deaths in a year being contributed to fentanyl, right? So like that, what he said there in the very beginning of that clip made no sense. It's just demonstrably untrue.
It was part of a convoluted attempt to redefine fentanyl to be a poison instead of a drug. And it took a really long winding path, and I don't really see what the point of it is anyway. In the beginning of the clip, I thought, wait, is he expressing like empathy for people? Or maybe even setting up, there are people who are gonna want this drug. We have a multi-thousand-mile border. You're never gonna be able to stop it from coming in. So why don't we have a policy that approaches this issue and addiction with empathy? It turns out that's not where he was going. He wanted to spin this fantasy that, we could shut it down instantly. We could find every ounce of drug hidden in every vehicle, and we know that the vast majority of these drugs don't come in over rugged areas of unexplored wilderness. They're driven in trucks and cars, and always will be. This is part of him trying to make the argument that Joe Biden has made a conscious decision to allow fentanyl to come into this country, which is insane. Drugs enter our country under Democratic presidents and Republican presidents, and they do it because conservatives, moderates, and liberals want drugs. And there is no way you're gonna stop these substances 100% of the time from coming in. And the more you do to stop it from coming in, you just make more of an economic incentive for people to think of novel ways to bring it in. It has always made it in, it will always make it in. Our policy should finally reflect that, but that is not what he is pushing for. What he wants is billions of more dollars to go to Border Patrol. It won't stop the drug problem, but it will allow the Republicans to pretend that they're better on this policy. And it'll also waste a lot of money.
Look, I think you're being unfair to Matt Gaetz. It's wrong. You seem to not really want to do anything. You seem to not be open to any solutions to be sure, a very real problem in the United States. But Matt Gaetz does have a solution.
Oh God.
Okay. His solution is to, hold on, let me make sure I'm reading this correctly. I want to do my due diligence and not misrepresent what he's saying. He would like to, that's right, bomb the Sinaloa cartel.
That ought to do it. That ought to do it. I think that Mexico and other countries in Central and South America, they've gone decades. I think they should try violence because they haven't tried that. And I think that that's probably gonna wrap up the problem really fast.
Let's go back to Matt Gaetz doing cocaine. So back in 2021.
He'd prefer that too.
Yeah, he would.
His solution to the problem is you don't let the drugs come in, you take the child you're trafficking outside of the country and do drugs there. That's allegedly, that's the solution to our drug problems.
A headline from May 14th, 2021, Daily Beast. Representative Matt Gaetz snorted cocaine with escort who had no-show government job. Nice.
When he's got effectively a no-show government job.
100%, but so does the entirety of Congress.
That's true.
When Representative Matt Gaetz attended a 2019 GOP fundraiser in Orlando, his date that night was someone he knew well, a paid escort and amateur Instagram model who led a cocaine-fueled party after the event, according to 2 witnesses. The Florida congressman's one-time wingman, Joel Greenberg, will identify that escort to investigators as one of more than 15 young women Gaetz paid for sex, according to a source familiar with the investigation. Yeah, so that investigation is ongoing, by the way. We'll wait for that bomb to drop. But Matt Gaetz, definitely a cocaine aficionado.
Well, I feel like people should speak on things they're experts on, and finally he is.
And finally, exactly.